I recently had an experience at work where I felt misunderstood. I was trying to prove myself that I was right. I wanted to be seen as right. I was trying to explain myself so that people could see things from my point of view. Then, way later, when I was doing some journaling, trying to reflect on what really happened, what that experience made me feel, and why it made me feel that way, and what I learned from that experience, it was actually the ego doing the work in the background. And that's what really sparked the conversation for today's topic, which is the ego. So let's talk about it. Okay. The ego is basically that part of us that wants to be validated, wants to be praised, wants to be seen as always right. That part of us that doesn't want to do better, but it wants to be seen as better. That part of us that feels it's better than others. When we are humble, we understand how much we don't know. And the obstacle to that is being a know it all. That false confidence that is rooted in the ego. First of all, there is the real ego and the false ego. The real ego is our very essence, our consciousness that makes us aware and awake to reality. And then the false ego is an identity crafted to preserve our sense of being as the most significant, the most important, the one that knows everything. The ego is a mask, and if it goes unchecked, it could harm us. In our eagerness to present ourselves as the smartest, as the greatest, we hide our true selves. It's a complex stew of who we are, who we want to be, how we hope to be seen, and what we are feeling in any given moment. We are a certain person at home alone, but then we present the world with another version of ourselves. And the difference between the two personas is that the public persona is working so hard to be considerate, to be attentive, to be generous. Insecurities makes us want to convince ourselves and others that we are special. So we contrive this dishonest version of ourselves in order to appear more knowledgeable, more accomplished, more confident. We present this inflated self to others, and then we do everything that we can to protect it. The self that we want others to perceive. We put a lot of effort in polishing the appearance of the self that we present to the world, which is totally okay. If we dress and groom for ourselves, it's because we want to feel comfortable and appropriate, or because we appreciate the colors and style of certain clothes. But the ego wants more. It wants attention for how we look, it wants to get praised. It finds joy and confidence in impressing others. If you are satisfied with who you are, you don't need to prove your worth to anyone else. You are who you are when no one is watching. The ego craves recognition, acknowledgement, praise, to be more, to be right. It doesn't want to do better, it wants to be seen as better. As we go our way through life, pretending to be who we are not, we end up looking worse than who we truly are. So, having a real ego means that we have a healthy self image that comes from acting out our purpose. The ego builds a facade of confidence and knowledge to convince itself and everyone else that it's great. It goes to great lengths to put others down because if others are less than, then we must be special. It accomplishes this by ranking ourselves and others based on physical attributes, education, net worth, religion, race, ethnicity, nationality, the cars we drive, the clothes we wear. It just finds countless ways to judge others and unfavorably just because they are different. Most of the time, when we are successful and we allow that success to get into our heads so much, we forget that everyone is equal. No matter who you are or what you've achieved, notice when you are expecting or demanding special treatment because of your presumed status and then dig into that feeling. What makes you better than other people? A lot of the times it's because the arrogant ego, it desires respect. But when you are humble, you inspire respect. The ego sets us on a path where we put more values on ourselves and those whom we recognize as being like us. So for us to keep the ego in check, we have to learn to presume equality. Whenever you think someone's status or worth is less than yours, I want you to turn that gaze back to yourself and look for why your ego feels threatened. In many cases, we judge others to deflect others' attention or our own from our own shortcomings. So before you judge others, pause for a moment and ask, Am I finding fault in order to distract myself or others for my own insecurities? Am I projecting my weaknesses onto them? And even if I'm doing neither of that, am I better than the person that I'm criticizing? Because most probably the answer is no. In our desire to show ourselves and others that we know it all, we jump into conclusions, we fail to listen to our friends, and miss potentially valuable new perspective. And once we've got a point of view, we are unlikely to change. And the question for thought is, are we ashamed or grateful when we discover that we are wrong about something? Are we defensive or intrigued when we find information that contradicts something that we believe? Because if we are not open minded, we deny ourselves opportunity to learn, to grow, and change. There's something called institutional ego, and this sounds like this. We've always done it like this. I already know that. When we presume knowledge, we miss out on a learning opportunity. What if there was an extra piece to that story? Even if you know a story, try to live it as a new experience every time. Allow yourself to be empty so that you can be filled up with knowledge and rewarding experiences. If you're on top of your game in whatever that you do, beware because the ego isolates us. Don't start living in a world where you think you are too special that one person deserves your time and another one doesn't deserve it. If you inspire special treatment, it's because people appreciate you. But if you demand or feel entitled to it, you are looking for respect that you've not earned. One thing about the ego is that it's double edged. It could be an inflated ego or a deflated ego. The false self that builds us up or tears down. When our weaknesses are exposed, that ego that told us that we are brilliant, we are successful, has no defense. It masks and then it transforms into low self esteem. And then we end up being wrapped up in ourselves and how we are perceived. If we don't break our ego, life will break it for us. One moment the ego tells us that we are great at everything, and the next moment it tells us that we are the worst. Either way, we are blinded to the reality of who we truly are. So having true humility means we are able to see what lies beyond the extremes. True humility allows us to understand our weaknesses and wants to improve. In the darkness of our ego, we think we are so special, we are so powerful, we are so significant. But when we are able to look at ourselves and see ourselves clearly in the context of the great universe, we see we only play a small part, just a small part. So, this is a reminder for us to be humble. It's also a reminder for us to forget our achievements and remember our mistakes. That will restrain the ego and increase the capacity to practice gratitude. Having that increased awareness, that means we are able to notice when our ego flare. Let's say when someone insults you, the ego wants to respond so badly, but then you choosing to take a step back. It's not about repressing the ego. It's about looking beyond the moment and looking at the bigger picture of the other person's experience. Are they frustrated or exhausted? That will help before letting your ego jump in. Because everyone has a story, and sometimes it's not usually about you. So, this is a reminder to not take everything personally. Detaching from the ego is so liberating. That means we are not defined by our accomplishments. We are grateful for what we've accomplished, but then we let go of the ownership. We also realize that whatever it is that we have done has been with the help of our teachers, our parents, our bosses, our coaches, even the skills of someone who is self made have their works in the origin of someone else. Judging from your ego would look like, let's say you receive an insult. I know the ego wants to respond to that insult so badly, but then you pause, you take a step back and then take a broader view at the person's negativity and then you respond to the situation, not the insult. Let's say someone gives you a compliment or receive accolades. Take this opportunity to be grateful for the teachers who helped you further this quality. When we listen to people, we often unwrap them with a story that shows we have it better or worse. Listen to understand and acknowledge. Be curious. Don't say anything about yourself. I ain't gonna lie, this is something that I'm still struggling with and I'm learning to do better day by day. I thought I should also talk about something before wrapping up this entire conversation. Do not confuse having an inflated ego with healthy self esteem. The ego wants everyone to like you, but having high self esteem, you just fine if they don't. The ego thinks it knows everything. Self-esteem thinks it can learn from anyone. The ego wants to prove itself. Self-esteem wants to express itself. Instead of worrying what people will say, we filter what people will say. Instead of comparing ourselves to others, we cleanse our minds and we look to improve ourselves. Instead of trying to prove ourselves, we be ourselves, meaning we ain't distracted by external bonds. We live with intention in our purpose. That's it for today's video. I really had a good time talking about this topic. I love having such kind of conversations, and I'm always looking forward to grow. So if you're on this journey with me, let's grow together. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section and see you on the next one. Bye.